Hi everyone. In this video I will be reading Fly Guy Presents Castles. A boy had a pet fly named Fly Guy. Fly Guy could say the boy's name, Buzz. Buzz and Fly Guy were visiting a castle. "Whoa," said Buzz, "this place is amazing." "Yes." Fly Guy wondered what it was like to live in a castle. They headed inside to find out. Castles are fancy homes. Castles are fortresses too. They are designed to keep those inside safe. They have defenses like drawbridges and gates to keep enemies out. Halts. People have used forts for protection since ancient times, but the first true castles of Europe were built in the 10th century in France. That's more than 1,000 years ago. Most of the castles we admire today were built in Europe during the Middle Ages around AD 500 through 1500. Around 950, the first castles are built in France from earth and wood. Wood burns easily, so castles are soon built from stone. Most stone castles have walls that are at least 8 feet thick. 1066. William the Conqueror invades England from France and becomes king. He starts building the Tower of London, a large square stone fortress. Huzzah! 1180. Dover Castle in England is one of the first concentric castles. That means one ring of stone wall is built around another wall. 1180 through 1400s. Many castles are built in France. These castles look fancier than English castles. Many have tall round towers with cone-shaped roofs. The Middle Ages are also called the medieval period. If an enemy wanted to take over an area of land, they had to take control of the castle on that land. Every part of a castle's grounds was designed to keep the enemy from getting inside. Parapet, a low wall around the top of the tower. Gatehouse, the main entrance. A lookout point guards could see from miles from up here was the watchtower. Keep, the castle's main building. Moat, a tall hill. A motte was a tall hill. A moat is a deep ditch around the castle, often filled with water. Outer curtain was the outer wall. Inner curtain was the inner wall. Castles were often attacked, so they had many defenses built into their walls. A drawbridge could be raised to block enemies from entering the castle. A portcullis was a heavy wooden or metal gate. It was lowered to keep enemies out. Roofs were made of slate or tile to protect the castle from flaming arrows. Crenels were tooth-like gaps in the parapet. Guards could keep an eye out for attackers. Myrtle holes were holes in the ceiling. Guards used them to shoot arrows or pour boiling water or hot sand on enemies' heads. An arrow loop, or arrow slit, was a thin vertical slit in the castle's wall. Guards could safely shoot arrows at the enemy. Attackers used different weapons to try to take control of the castle. A mangonel was a catapult. It was used to throw heavy objects at castle walls. A trebuchet was a machine that flung objects, like heavy stones, beehives, or animal poop, up and over the castle walls. That could throw a lot of poop. Yuck! A ballista was a cross between a giant bow and a catapult. It was used to launch sharp, heavy darts at targets. A battering ram was a hanging tree trunk that attackers slammed into the castle's wooden gates. A siege tower was a tall wooden tower with wheels. Men pushed it close to the castle so they could climb over the wall. Buzz says poobs. Life inside a castle depended on who you were. The king and queen ruled over everyone in the country. There was a lot of land to protect, so the king often gave land to a rich friend called a lord. As the king's friend, the lord was allowed to build a castle to protect that land. The lord and lady lived in one of the castle's towers. Their children learned to read and write. Boys might learn to play on instrument, ride horses, fly hawks, or play chess. Girls learned to sing, sew, and help run the household. Knights also lived in the castle. They worked for the ruler to defend the castle. A boy began knight training at age 7. When he turned 21, he became a knight. Knights rode horses into battle. They practiced their skills by jousting. 2 knights raced toward each other carrying long wooden poles called lances. Each knight tried to knock the other off his horse first. A coat of arms let others know which king or lord the knight fought for. A full suit of armor weighed as much as 3 bowling balls. Servants and other workers lived in the castle too. This included kitchen workers, gardeners, blacksmiths, tailors, priests, doctors, jesters, or other entertainers. The blacksmith made horseshoes, tools, nails, and weapons. The tailor made clothing from wool or silk cloth. The jester told jokes, played instruments, and sang, juggled, and did magic tricks. Many pets lived in castles. Cats kept rats and mice away. Falcons or hawks were trained to catch small animals. Pigeons sometimes carried messages to other castles. Dogs, such as beagles, were used to hunt rabbits. Horses were used for travel, battles, hunts, and farm work. Flies lived in castles too. Most parts of a castle were crowded, shared spaces. Only the ruling family had its own rooms. These rooms smelled good because fresh herbs hung from the walls. The castle toilet was called a garderobe. It was a wooden or stone slab with a hole in the middle. Waste fell down a chute. No one liked shoveling it out, but someone had to do it. This person was called the gong farmer. The dungeon was often at the very bottom of the castle, below the basement. Some dungeons were rooms in high towers. Prisoners were held here. The only way in or out was through a trap door in the floor. Celebrations were held in the castle's main room, the Great Hall. Fish from fish ponds, or the moat, might be served at a feast, along with beef and lamb. Wild birds would be baked into pies. Yumsy. Desserts included custards and fruit tarts. They were usually sweetened with honey. Food was eaten off plates made of wood or pottery. They were called trenchers. Sometimes stale pieces of bread were used as trenchers. Everyone had a spoon and knife, but there were no forks. Who needs forks? There are castles and buildings like castles all around the world. Many of them were built after the Middle Ages. The Kremlin in Russia has 5 palaces and 4 cathedrals. The Himeji Castle in Japan is known as White Egret Castle. It looks like a beautiful bird. Alcazar de Segovia in Spain looks like the bow of a ship. Chateau du Valandry in France is famous for its gardens. Lal Quilla, or Red Fort in India, is named for its red sandstone walls. Castles everywhere. Castles have inspired the work of many artists and authors. Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany inspired artist Walt Disney to build Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland Park. Bran Castle in Romania is also called Dracula's Castle. Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897. Many people believe this castle was his inspiration. Castles today are often museums. Some are still home to modern families. Prague Castle is the home of the Czech president. Windsor Castle is the oldest castle in the world to still have people living in it. At Blarney Castle, visitors kiss the Blarney Stone. There's even a castle in New York City. Belvedere Castle is actually a weather station. It was fun to learn about castles, Buzz told Fly Guy. It's even more fun to make our own. Yes. Buzz and Fly Guy could not wait for their next field trip. The end. Thank you for watching.